Okay, let's see. We're gonna make sure we're on the right screen here. Yes, sir. So welcome. We're gonna do VOTech Live and VOTech Simplified Live, and today we're gonna talk about cloud storage. I hate it, sort of. I don't hate it. I don't hate anything like that. I don't hate tech. Uh, some things are more effective than others, but what I hate is the insidious nature of it. Apple, Microsoft both have their own cloud storage, and they promise you all these great things. For audio production, it can ruin your life, and here's why. If I take Studio One, if I take Reaper, and Audition and Audacity, I mean even Audacity, if you store your audio on a cloud drive as your primary storage, you are setting yourself up for problems down the road. And of course, if you have more sophisticated DAWs like Studio One or Reaper or some of the higher end tools, then they have some things that are on the local drives, like to have templates, and they have different components that are used regularly. But the big takeaway is that you can turn this off if you want to go out and get prepared for your July 4th weekend, assuming you're watching this live. You can go ahead and guarantee you that if you use like you open a file, you start an audiobook, you start a voiceover project, and you point it toward your cloud storage drive, thinking that it's going to be cool because I can record here and then I can edit there and I can get it wherever I am, any place I'm at in the world. There is some downside to that. There's no free lunch, and it'll ruin your life later, where you go to open something and all of a sudden a file doesn't exist temporarily. So for example, so if I'm going, and here's the insidious part. When you, Apple and Microsoft, when there's an upgrade, they will offer you free storage space on iCloud or OneDrive. And when you say yes to that, they move the default storage location. For example, if I'm on one of my Macs, then what will happen with that is that my desktop and my documents folder would automatically get moved to the cloud storage. That's pretty cool on one hand. If I'm a casual user, if that's my mom, that will work fantastic because she opens up her second Mac and the same desktop she has on one location is going to be available in another. So that seems super great. Same thing on Windows, where my documents folder, where that's the default for applications, I will go ahead and find all my stuff there, and it seems fantastic because I have the same stuff in multiple locations and I don't have to do anything for it. That seems like a fantastic win, except for when it's not. Okay, and when it's not, it's because there are about 400 different little links in the chain to get between your machine and the iCloud servers, your machine and the OneDrive. I'm just going to call them cloud services, and that's probably an exaggeration. There may not be 400, but there's at least 20. And if any place in that chain something fails, your tool that you use on a regular basis is not going to work that day. Now, it may work 5 minutes later. It may work 30 seconds later. It may work later in the afternoon. Usually it's only a matter of seconds. But let me give you a couple examples. In Studio One, and it'll be similar in the other tools, I'll talk about the same thing in Reaper. When I choose new, I have some templates. Okay, so those templates are sitting here, but the template lives on disk. When I right click on it, I can say show and explore in this case, and it comes up. And in my case, I have it going to an internal drive. All right, but if I have this if this is living on a cloud drive, it would come up 95% of the time, 98% of the time. It would show me the iCloud drive or the OneDrive. And by the way, you can use iCloud on a PC. You can use OneDrive on a Mac. So you could be cross-platform on that. So that's why cloud drives. And it would actually show it, and it'll work. And when I actually use it, it'll work fine. And I'll go ahead and I'll say, yeah, show me my audiobook file. I'm going to make an audiobook here, chapter 03, whatever. And I say, okay, there. And that comes up, and that came off the cloud. Now, in my case, it did not come off the cloud, but in the cloud, it will work. And it will work for days. It'll work for weeks. I've had some people it'll work for 6 months or more. And then one day I get a call and they'll tell me, hey, my Studio One's broke. Hey, Reaper's broke. Hey, Audition's broke. Hey, Audacity broke. And I go behind the scenes and I find out, oh, that's because the files that your DAW was accessing is sitting in the cloud and it didn't come down properly. And in the computer universe, it works out that a fraction of a second, 2/10 of a second, is an eternity in computer time. It's like dog years in reverse, where they're used to operating so quickly in X milliseconds to go get a file from a local drive. Then when it takes 2 seconds for it to find something, as far as it's concerned, 2 seconds, man, I just waited an eternity here. Now I'm an adult, and it just says, hey, I can't find my file. Then it starts throwing error messages. Then you think your DAW's broke. Then you think, oh no, it's just because it can't get the file currently. And so what's the right answer? Number one, when you get offered a free lunch, it's like the rest of life, don't take it. Okay. Could it work? Yeah. I mean, maybe you did win the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. Maybe you won the lottery. Okay. That's going to happen to somebody. Hadn't happened to me. Maybe it happened to you. But what really, 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 what really is a problem is it does work for a while. And it will work for weeks, months, and then it will not. So, and then, it's kind of a problem. I have work to do today. A lot of times a reboot solves it. A lot of times, but sometimes it won't immediately. Sometimes it's later. So lots of hassle. Now, note, all the good DAWs allow you to decide on a default path. So when I'm taking so what does that mean? It means when I'm saving a file and I create a new one, I don't have to save it to the cloud drive. I'm going to do a voiceover here. So I pick my voiceover template and I'm just going to say VO test because we're just messing around here. And then with this little thing, I can pick. Now, in this case, it's going to an internal drive. If I have an external drive, the audio programs, let's back up one to it. Audio programs have no idea where they're actually being saved. They actually never save anything. They are similar to having a delivery, a DoorDash delivery. You call up a restaurant and you say, hey, I want chicken curry, and the restaurant says fine, and DoorDash is getting it and bringing it to you. And then when you're done, maybe pretend you have a maid. I don't have that. Anyway, or I have a dog that could eat all the leftovers, but they bring it to you. Okay, that's what happens when you actually say file open, or you double click on a file from the file manager. When you double click on it, then it goes, oh, application wake up. Oh, that's a Reaper file. And it wakes up Reaper and it says, hey, Reaper, I got a file for you. And it passes it over. The file system handles that. When you say save, Studio One, Reaper, Audition, Audacity, Twisted Wave, Oaken Audio, none of them actually know that they're saving to a local drive, a thumb drive, an external drive, a cloud drive. They have no idea. They're just a messenger service. They say, hey, by the way, I have this file, I have this audio, please store it for me on and they give it a name. It could be the F drive. It could be named as a specific thing. And then the operating system knows to give it to DoorDash, give it to UPS to deliver it, give it to FedEx to deliver it, give it to the post office to deliver it. It doesn't, once you give it off to the service, you don't really care. And then those delivery services, which are also known as drivers in the business, then they know if it's on a thumb drive, that's one thing. If it's on an SSD drive, that's another. If it's on one of those spinny drives, they all know what to do with it. And then the applications are ignorant. Studio One knows nothing about where its files are stored in terms of how it's stored and the details, and it doesn't care. You pass it off to UPS. Do you care if UPS sends your package to Alaska and then all the way back to deliver it to a town that's 100 miles away from you? Sometimes it goes weird routes, and we really don't care. As long as it gets there in one piece in the time that we thought it should get there, we're good. And that's what's happening on your computer. So here's the big takeaway, and then you can go ahead and enjoy your weekend. If you put something on iCloud, or if you allow iCloud to be installed on your machine, it is automatically moving things. And there are articles up there where you can unwind it all, but you have to do some manual work if you take your stuff back off the iCloud drive, like the default folders, the document folder and the desktop folder, and you move them back. You have to copy them all down. It's doable. It's not that big a deal. I can do it in a half hour, sometimes less, depends on how much stuff you have up there. But it causes problems if you don't pay attention to where your stuff is being stored. And if you are storing on the cloud, I mean, I'd love to charge, $50 to unwind this stuff all the time because it's a hassle. And I've been ranting about it for a couple years now, and I just keep running into it. It's the number one tech call. I'll bet I should check with my other tech guys. It's crazy how many times I find something's not working. I go look at their machine and I figure out, wait a minute, that file's being stored on a cloud service. Well, yeah, I wanted to save space. Yeah, I wanted to record on this computer and then play it back on this other one and edit it over there. It's like, fine, but there's a cost. That get a good external drive. You can plug them into one computer. You can plug them into another. External drives, you can take them back and forth. Get an SSD if you're actually physically moving it, so that when you drop it, not if, that it'll continue to work. But do not allow your audio to live on a cloud storage. I don't have it turned on anymore on my PC. I don't have it turned on my Macs. I refuse to have it. Now I could use, of course it's, I don't know, you could have a situation where you could use it responsibly for backup purposes. You just don't want your default locations to go there, or you understand the details about it and you can make it work where you don't store any of your audio projects on it, but you store a Word document on it. And then it does work really well on other apps. But I guess here's the dirty secret. I pull up on, this is true of a bunch of apps. Let me go find something that's a little bit bigger. Okay. There's a bunch of files in this. And what people don't know is these things all live on disk someplace. This track, the audio actually is living on disk. And I can go through it. What do I have to do here? I select in pool, comes up here, there, that's selected, and I can say locate file, show and explore, and I can go find out that file lives in bloody location, okay? There's a path that's right here. Okay, that's where that file lives. So, point being, this audio file does not live within this file that I just opened up. It's on disk someplace. This one is on disk someplace. This one is on disk someplace. And you actually can find out where it is and right click and get a bunch of details. And that's the way they all work. And even in Audacity, which does a funky thing that makes no sense to me. I just think they made a bad decision on how they store things all in one file, and that creates they solved one problem and they created a whole bunch of other ones. But all the more advanced DAWs don't store them in one file anymore because that's a recipe for disaster. But nonetheless, it's stored someplace. Don't store it on a cloud drive. You can use those for backup. You can have it sync things after the fact, but you don't store there. But external drives are your friend if you're running out of space. Get an external. And also note that both Studio One, Reaper, Audition, all the great programs, they do have in their options, you can set a base level location. So for me, one of my internal drives is a D drive. Excuse me. And so that means that even if I had a cloud drive, as long as I didn't store the default location, if I didn't set that to the cloud drive, I can have a cloud drive working if I really know what I'm doing. So can you. We all can. But don't do it if you don't know how the clouds work and how to unwind that stuff, don't do it. And then secondarily, when I create something new, by default, in my case, Studio One does remember the last location I'm in, so that if I were to create 2 or 3 demos or I'm working on a book, it'll remember it. There's default locations for its internal tools. It remembers where I stored something before. When I go into Reaper, I've got default path to save new projects. Yes, set yourself up a path. So that means if you have OneDrive, you could set a default path so that you default to where you want it to go. Same with where you're rendering and recording path. Basically, there are a set of options in almost every DAW to allow you to put things in set places that make sense that are not on the cloud. So I do not want to default my projects to a cloud drive. I do not want to have all the little files that like there's a peak cache. There's one in Studio One as well. There's one in a lot of Audition has that too. But there's different files that are used by the apps while they're working. And if they're in the iCloud or they're in OneDrive and then it can't work, it's a bad day. Okay? Yeah. 23 over to that drive. Yep. So, so Richard, let me highlight this because first off, Laura had this thing. She said, this happened to her a few weeks ago, and she's like, "What the heck just happened?" And so what happens is all of a sudden something that's been working for X amount of months. Reaper's been working fantastic. It's all doing its thing exactly what it should be doing. Studio One's been working. Audition's been working. Audacity, whatever. Your tools are working. And one day you come in and they're not, and you're like, "Yeah, this thing's been working for whatever months, years." And all of a sudden one day it's not working. It's really disoriented and maddening. So get that off there. And then Richard is just saying where he just moved 25 gigs off of the Google Cloud to an external drive. Smart. Google Cloud's the same thing. If that's your primary storage, like when I go to save something, I could save directly to Google Drive, or I can save to a local drive, and then I can have the cloud services sync those. There is some other things. That has some issues as well, but still, then it doesn't cause failure in the middle of my day. And Richard's also saying here that he moved everything from 2023 over to that drive. And external drives are the way to go. Have yourself an external drive, and I recommend you get a solid state external drive if you move it between locations. If you're in a single location, you can use spinny drives. That works pretty well as well. Although they do make some noise, so it depends on how close you have one to your mic. I like the computer outside of my recording space. So spinny drives don't work if they're close to a mic. SSDs could work beside a mic. So yeah, you have a lot of options there. So takeaway: PC, Mac. Be sure you're not storing your audio stuff on the cloud. It will ruin your day at some point. Unless I guess you have unlimited time every once in a while when it does fail that you can, sort things out and come back to it at another time. That'll work, but it doesn't work. Eliminate some headache, and then there are problems if Studio One does not save a file. Studio One hands it off to the post office, and the post office is supposed to deliver it. And once the app hands it off to the operating system, sometimes they'll get an error message that, whoops, we couldn't save something, and sometimes they don't. And I've just seen more things that get messed up with that kind of stuff. Hopefully you have auto saves. The better programs have auto saves. They have backups and stuff like that if you have one of the better DAWs. But it's just what a hassle, okay? So I don't recommend you store anything in the iCloud except for backups. Fantastic. That's great. Just don't have it be your direct, hey, my internal drive's running out of space, so I'm going to create this new project and I'm going to send it off, and I'm going to keep it on my iCloud because I'm running out of space locally. Find a way to get an external drive. They are dirt cheap these days. I'll bet there's, for anyone watching this in near real time, there are going to be sales over the July 4th weekend. There will be sales over whatever the end of the summer is. I get those mixed up. That's Labor Day or Memorial Day. It should be Labor Day, I believe, at the end of September or beginning of September, if I remember that right. But boy, don't quote me on that. I think we had Memorial Day already. Okay. So on those holidays, there's good deals on Prime Day. There's good deals on drives. Pick yourself up a decent sized external drive, 2 terabyte minimum. But hey, if you're getting a spinny drive, if you can use that, then pick up a 6 gig high end, high quality drive. Spend an extra $50. Get something that's not the cheapest ones. You're not looking for the cheapest drives, because remember, when they fail, life is not fun for a few days, and they will fail eventually. So invest a little more, get the higher quality ones, and I'll have to do something on that later. I've got a couple drives I really recommend, but that's for another day. All right, let me see if there's anything else over there. I hope I had somebody, that this came up recently in the last 2 days, and it's like, I know I've said it, I'm going to keep saying it. Don't store your stuff on a cloud drive unless it's the only option you have, and then it's just short term until you get an external drive and move everything back, get it off the cloud. And there's plenty of articles on Google about how to take everything off the iCloud and put it back on my local computer. And same with Windows. How to remove OneDrive and put all the files back on the local computer. Google it and you'll find a whole bunch of articles on doing it. You're not the first one that's had this problem, but and you won't be the last. All right. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Be sure to join. Be sure to check out the Studio One group on Facebook, the VO Tech Simplified group. That URL is down in the bottom right-hand corner there. The RX group, which is the audio rescue group. I've got VOJumpstart.com, lots of good stuff. And of course, if you have something you want me to go over, please send me a message. I look forward to seeing you next week on VO Tech Simplified Live. All right, have a great weekend. Talk to you later. See you on the wires. Bye.